What is the biggest secret you've ever kept from your family? So, my brother and I saw aliens as a kid, and we were super intrigued by the flamethrowers. In a feat of idiotic 13-year-old brilliance, we determined that a super soaker filled with Aquanet with a butane lighter strapped to the front might actually work the same. To our utter shock, it did. Shot 20-foot streams of sticky flame. We were just overjoyed, until said sticky flame hit the side of the house and caught it on fire. Oh shit. So we race over and between my shirt and the hose get it out, but there's a large dark spot on the side of the house. So we disassemble and clean out the flamethrower and mum's the word. 30 years later, we're eating dinner over at the folks, and Dad remarks they've painted the house and finally got rid of that weird dark spot. Much stealthy chortling ensued. Honestly, how do kids survive childhood? We're all idiots. When I was a kid, I dropped the rake while working in the yard and the handle landed in dog poop. Instead of cleaning it off, I used duct tape to seal off the poop from the outside world. It ended up being used for almost 10 years after that, and I always thought about that rake's dirty secret. The secret was poop. This is so weird, no offense meant, and hilarious. My cat's poop got on the wall at a rental house and I painted over it. Username checks out. A secret from my grandparents who I adored. They were actually my great aunt and uncle, having raised my mother from the age of 2. Her mother had passed away, and her father was an alcoholic, who ended up enlisting and going to war during World War II. I had a habit of looking through my parents' wedding album when I was very young. I loved the dresses, etc. At the back of the book was their marriage license, and I saw when I was about 11 that my mother's last name was not the same as my grandparents' last name. I asked her, and she told me they were not her biological parents. I never told them I knew because I didn't want them to feel less than my grandparents, which they absolutely were. By this time, my biological grandfather had passed. They were always Nana and Grandpa to me, and they were amazing grandparents. Family members are the loved ones that help raise you, care for you, love you, and support you. Blood be damned. This was a long time ago, but I pretended to graduate from college after 4 years of my family paying for it. The last semester of my senior year, I was told that because of an incomplete my sophomore year, I wouldn't be graduating. When I promised to retake that class over the summer, they allowed me to march with my classmates in a cap and gown. Instead of telling my family the truth, I just went ahead with it. The whole family came, big party, etc. Of course, I did not take the class that summer. That hung over my head for 20+ years, when after getting sober, I completed my degree by working with the college and taking a local class. If anyone is reading this, listen to me. If you are close to graduation and haven't made it, reach out to the school. We will help you find a way across the finish line. You will have to work, but it will be worth it. There are people at your school that know how the institutional policy works and how to find the shortest distance between you and a degree. Don't be embarrassed about why you didn't finish or your previous academic struggles. We don't care. People can help. My suicide note was written on the wall of my closet for 4 years while I lived in that house. It said what you could find my body, why I chose to do what I did, and explained a rough last will and testament. When I moved out, my folks, who owned the home I lived in, never found it. I'm way happier now than I've ever been, and when I took everything out of my closet and I found it again, I broke down crying. I grabbed some matching paint, painted over it, and was able to finally reconcile with the pain that I had felt for the past 8 years. To this day, they don't know. I have something similar, except it's a note in my wallet that I carry with me. I've thought about my death quite a bit, and how I do it. Had a gun against my head twice, but didn't do it. Obviously. I tell myself it's only because of my dad that I'm still here. But that's a lie, I tell myself. I don't think I'd actually do it. So the note now is more of a reminder to not go down that dark path. Kind of funny, but I carry concealed every day. Glad you were able to get some closure. My grandfather used to force me to French kiss him when no one was in the room. When he got super old, I was tasked with watching him one night. He peed his pants and was pathetically asking me to help him. But the 8-year-old inside me just let him sit there for hours until my parents got home. Spitting on his face before they closed the casket was the best thing I've ever done for myself. See how you like my saliva all over your face, you piece of shit. I went through a similar situation, but I have literally never told anybody about it. I was around the same age as you, but I had forgotten about it until like 4 or so years ago, and I get so repulsed every time I remember it. I would actually like to talk with someone about it, but I'm so ashamed of it and don't really know how other people would contribute anything anyways. My 14-year-old godson is actually my biological child. About 16 years ago, I disappeared in the middle of the night to start a new life away from my toxic family and went no contact with them for 3 years. I ended up getting pregnant from a one-night stand. I was homeless at the time, so keeping my son was not an option. My ex-best friend and her husband had been struggling to start a family of their own, so they offered to adopt my child. Plot twist. My husband and I currently have custody of my child and his 4 siblings. Their parents are in jail for domestic violence and child neglect. Edit. Holy bananas! I did not expect this to blow up. I want to clarity a few things. 1. My son does not know I am his biological mother, but we plan to tell him soon. My husband and I plan to petition to adopt him and his siblings. Our lawyer warned us that his parentage would come up during the process. I want my son to hear it from me. He is currently battling PTSD due to the incident that brought the kids into our care. We are working with his therapist to find the best way to tell him the truth without causing him more trauma. His mental health is our top priority. 2. My ex-friend has endometriosis, which affects fertility. Pregnancy can put endometriosis into remission for some women. She was one of the lucky ones. Once in remission, she had no trouble conceiving the other 4 kids. 3. My husband and I are raising 10 children. We are in the process of adopting my 12-year-old cousin and took custody of her 2 older sisters last week. We also have a set of biological 1-year-old twins. 18 months ago, we had 0 kids. That is definitely a plot twist. It sounds like you've straightened your life out since you were a teenager too. I was actually 25 years old when he was born. I have definitely straightened my life out.